Well, I had an experience on psilocybin mushrooms I'd like to share with you. I had a friend for 2 years, almost 3 years, who said he could show me other dimensions. And when he said that, I never really thought about what he was saying. But anyway, so we planned a day that we'd get together and do mushrooms. And it was my first time doing it. I show up to his house, and he said that, I was late, and he had taken his mushrooms, so here, take my dose. And it was what I thought would look like a big dose, but we had discussed that it had to be to see other dimensions, so I went ahead and took the dose. Or it was around a dinner plate full of mushrooms. Anyway, so I noticed right away that I was overdosed.
I would be immediately suspicious of a dinner plate full of anything.
What was I thinking?
Yeah.
This was my best friend, somebody that I would almost say that I was, now I look back at it and say I was under a spell. I wasn't really thinking. I can't believe it. But anyway, so I can't believe I'm telling you this story. But anyway, so once I noticed that I'm, overdosed, he started telling me that today's the day that I go to hell, and that he's a messenger, and they decided up above that, Paul needs to go to hell that day. All right?
This is not your friend, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. And I really, really thought it was. Anyway, so I sit down on the couch, and, your natural reaction is thinking that your friend is going to walk you through this. He invited you to his house to do mushrooms with him, so I kind of was still, even though he just told me something upsetting, I was still wanting to believe that he was helping me. So I lay down on the couch. And,
I see. Now, right away, I have a problem with that. The moment he said, today is your day to go to hell, right. That has such a negative connotation to it, Paul, that I don't see how you could think he was helping you.
What could I do? Could I go outside the house and scream, no. I'm overdosed? I should have picked up the phone and dialed 911. But I can't breathe. I'm struggling to breathe. My pulmonary, I was so far out that I would forget to breathe. And really, what could I do? And so he brings me into the living room. And by the way, each room was decorated different. The first room that I was in was all red lights. And anyway, so I'm going to get the story going here. So, he's sitting down talking to me, and this vibration came through the room, like whoa, 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 whoa. And it forced me down into the couch kind of a feeling, like I was really falling deep into the couch, and I would rebel against it and try to stand up. But anyway, so I fought this, and he commented about how I was fighting that feeling. And he started talking to me, and his eyeball changed. He had a little pierced earring on his eyebrow, and that dice started to spin. And when it changed, his eyeball changed and his skin changed. Okay? And there he is, this guy looking like an alligator with this eye that was just bright yellow, and the hole in it was just deep. Anyway, so I'm freaking out, and I go to the door. And when I get to the door, I couldn't open up the door. And then he stands, and then next thing I know, he's standing right behind me, and it's him again. And he says to me, when you open that door, hell starts. So I opened the door, and by the way, he had told me that the police, God's angels, the white man was coming to take me to hell. So I opened the door, and there were the police. He had called 911 on me, and they broke my skull, or supposedly cracked it and broke some ribs.
The police cracked your skull and broke ribs?
Yep. And Art, I don't know, I know I was walking, screaming into the sky, God help me. And I thought that maybe just by being out there that, somebody would call the police. So, sorry, I'm gargling to keep my mouth wet. Anyway, so
So it was your friend who called the police, right?
Yeah, he called the police, and the 911 transcriptions say that he said that he had a homosexual friend from work who was breaking into his house. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, I would disconnect yourself from this person and never again.
Of course. I've never. Well, I saw him once after that to confront him on what he did to me.
Oh, but yeah, anyway, that'd be interesting. And what did he say?
I said, number one, I started off with, "You're a snake." And
At the least.
What?
At the least.
At least, right? Anyway, but I want to tell you. So after this, I thought, I was just tripping. It was something that I saw. And my friend invites me to go to Washington State with him, and I'm in the back of a big rig truck. And George had somebody on, I'd never really thought about Coast to Coast before. George had somebody on the radio that said that he saw somebody turn into a reptilian. And when he described it, he said it started by the eyebrow. And I'm sitting in the back of this big rig going up the 5 freeway, and it occurred to me, I didn't hallucinate. That doesn't happen. There are no pink elephants out there. He really did. And Mark, my life has been so strange since that occurrence. I see.
Well, I'm sure it has. All right. Well, listen, thank you very much. That was interesting. I've often wondered about truck drivers out there. I think he said on the I-5, driving one of those big rigs. And, you have to wonder, hopefully he wasn't under any sort of influence like the one he described. And who needs friends like that? My God. They invite you in for a trip to another dimension, sit you down to a dinner plate. A dinner plate, mind you, full of hallucinogenic mushrooms. You apparently munch down, clean off the dinner plate, and then he tells you you're going to hell and calls the cops on you and claims that it was some sort of homosexual encounter. I don't see how it gets any worse than that. Let's go to the... West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Art, this is Mark at Fallon, Nevada.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I lived in Tucson about 11 years ago. I wanted to ask you if you think this might have been an abduction. I was driving down Sandario Road, my old 62 Dodge Dart, in the road at a dip, translucent, I'd say orange, probably 30 feet at the top, 30 feet high, 20 feet at the top. It was an inverted triangle. Translucent. Went through the dip. My car died. I lost 17 minutes. I was going to my girlfriend's house at the time. And got to her house, called the Air Force. Nothing was in the air. Nothing at all whatsoever. She noticed a little bloody spot in the back of my neck. It's like a little V. And it's now a cute little white scar behind my right ear. Now, I've tried calling other people and talking to this and that and the other thing, and nobody's ever been able to give me an explanation or anything, or if there's ever been an entity even that looked like that anybody had ever experienced.
How do you know that you had 17 missing minutes?
Well, my friend, I had my watch on, and when I looked at the thing, I looked down at my watch, and it was like, okay, I'm late. And the car died, and the last thing I remember was kind of rolling up out of an arroyo, and the next thing I looked back down, it was a wind-up watch. It wasn't electronic. It was a Bulova. And there it was. And
all right. Do you have any conscious memories of what went on during those 17 minutes?
Not a thing, my friend. Not a thing.
All right. I would say that there's a very, very good chance that you were abducted. And the only way you're going to really find out whether or not that's true is to volunteer to go through some sort of hypnotic experiment with somebody. If somebody puts you under, then there's a very good chance you can find out what happened during that 17 minutes if you have the cojones for it. Now, I wonder psychologically, we are, in the world right now, we are experiencing abductions. We are being taken. Now, most people want to believe that if they are here, and I do believe they are here, and they are watching us, and they are abducting us, that they're nothing but little friendly guys. I'm not one of those people. I give equal possibility, absolute equal possibility, to the chance that they are not our friends. Friends, after all, don't pluck you out of an automobile and experiment with you and do things that result in bloody little marks that become scars and then not tell you what happened. So I don't know. This whole abduction thing is worth pursuing. It's interesting, but it's not necessarily, in my opinion, benign. Not at all.
Amazing is when something happens that surprises you. I was sent an article. Now, I have no way of knowing if this is true, but it named the man, and it named, he told the whole story. It may have been, I'm not sure of the publication, but it was about a man who took off in a hang glider in Baja, California. And they do a lot of hang gliding in Baja, California. And I had to go out and get the damn thing. And he caught a thermal, and he went up like a rocket ship. Now, that can certainly occur. But what happened is he then caught the trade wind, some sort of wind, and he was carried over a period of days, I said days, from Baja, California, and landed in Australia. He said sometimes his hang glider was so high that the ocean was nothing but a blur. You know how high that means he was, thousands of feet up. At other times, he was barely above the waves. There were many times he thought he would not make it. He did see some islands, but he was unable to get the kite down at those times, and he ended up in Australia. That is an amazing story. I'm going to jump to the United Kingdom here, and I can't tell you, I do this program, so we talk about this sort of thing all the time, this kind of phenomena. And I have policemen calling me all the time. Policemen encounter these things, and they make superb witnesses because they're cops. I mean, they're trained to notice things, even under stress. They're trained to still notice things. They have their brain working a different way than ours, and it's trained to notice things.
Yeah.
And you've got this interview or something coming up with this police constable.
Yes. Well, what was interesting over there is the sightings of phantom big cats, leopards, and pumas and cougars in the British countryside is now so common that the police barely even bother going out when they hear about it because, just another panther on the prowl, And we had our pick of policemen. Like, they all had personal encounters with it.
Yes.
They all knew they existed. The RSPCA know they're there. But here's the mystery part. No bodies have shown up. No dead creatures on the highway. And the government has not officially acknowledged the presence of these animals in the country.
So, in other words, hence the name Phantom, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a police officer in the United Kingdom whose name is Police Constable Dave Toon.
When I lowered the binoculars and turned to my right, about 10 yards to my right was this big black cat. And I could see that it was about the size of a small fox, certainly 2 to 3 times bigger than a household cat. It turned, looked at me, and then ran off. But as it ran in a loping sort of movement, keeping its head very, very still and very low to the ground, which again is reminiscent of large black cats such as panthers and that type of animal.
All right, so there you have a police officer down in the United Kingdom. Very interesting. And then there's no, there is not. That was the same cut. I see. Okay, so we're going to move from there to chupacabras in a second. But these phantom cats, they disappear? They just poof?
Hi, this is Kate from California.
Well, hello.
How are you doing?
All right.
I have a bizarre 60s Southern California story for you.
Okay.
in 1969, my roommate, I lived with a family, an extended family, and my roommate and I used to work all day and then go dancing in Riverside, and then we'd stop about 2 in the morning on our way home to get some fast food or something, since we were skinny young girls. But one evening in the late summer of 69, we were on the San Bernardino Freeway 10 East, right at Redlands, and we were going to take an off-ramp and go to the Denny's and pick up something to eat and then go home. And it's a 4-lane road on either side of the, going in either direction. So I'm pulling off the off-ramp and asking my friend, well, what are you going to get to eat? And she's telling me, and all of a sudden, we were still in the car. It was still driving right on a road, but suddenly we weren't in this area with all these bright lights in a 4-lane or 8-lane freeway.
You were suddenly somewhere else?
I was on a 2-lane road with nothing but dirt for miles. No sign of city lights,
wow,
signs, no nothing. And I stopped the car, and my friend is going, weren't we just at the Denny's? And I didn't know quite how to proceed. But I said, well, I have not a clue where we are, so we just have to keep driving and see if we come to a sign or something,
right,
and know where we are. And we had lost 2 hours of time. I have no clue where that went. But when we finally got to signs, we were on the other side of some place called Chino Lake, and it's toward the border of California. And
it's very close to me. I know where.
It was just too strange. So we had to get our bearings, drive all the way to San Diego, and then back up to San Bernardino, because it was the only way I knew how to get back where I lived. But and we were quite shaken, and thank goodness her mother was very understanding.
And this occurred instantaneously.
Yes, absolutely. It wasn't like we didn't drink or smoke or any of that. We weren't out flying by in the 60s, but we were totally alert, and one second we were there, and the next second we were on the other, like a 4 or 5 hour drive from where we started.
And there were 2 hours missing?
Missing from time, but we don't remember what happened in that period. But about 3 weeks later, we were in a little town called Mentone. It's just a tiny place in San Bernardino County, out in the front yard, and I was with my girlfriend's mother and a little nephew who was about 6 or 7 at the time. We're all talking, and look up, it was evening, it wasn't quite dark yet, and all of a sudden here is this object. It was a flying vehicle that was cylindrical kind of, and it was just light, like neon light blue, white, some kind of odd color. And we were looking at it, and I remember sort of flicking back and forth from the side yard to the front yard where I'd been standing with them like millions of times in a minute, and then all of a sudden it just shot off into the distance really fast and disappeared.
Well, let me tell you something.
Oh.
You should go to a hypnotist and be regressed and find out what really happened, because it sounds to me like you were handled.
I think something happened, that's for sure, because after that period, I suddenly couldn't wear jewelry anymore. My skin was really sensitive to all kinds of metals, and when I'd try to work with my computer, it wouldn't work, and my radio would turn off, and every time I passed something electric, it'd go crazy. And
you were abducted.
Yeah, sometimes I want to know what happened, and sometimes
that was going to be my next question. Do you really want to know?
Yeah, I do. I just am not sure where to go to do something like that and not end up being a government experiment,
John Mack, Professor John Mack.
And is he in California or where?
Harvard.
Oh, okay. But if I call there, then he could figure something out.
Yeah, you can communicate with Professor Mack. You bet.
I think that'd be a great idea.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking my call.
And when you do find out, you call me back.
I will. And I wanted to tell you one other thing that happened it was years later, but I was living in Northern California on 4th of July in 1991. It was about midnight, and I'd been in Redding watching fireworks with my 2 small children. I was on the way back up toward Lassen Park where my property was, and I looked up in the sky. It was really clear, lots of stars, and all of a sudden I saw what appeared to be a meteor, which was coming into the atmosphere, and it turned bright red, and I just assumed it would burn up. Well, it came through the atmosphere, came down, turned that same weird color, neon blue,
yes,
stopped, went to the right, went to the right, and then went down behind Mount Lassen, and I thought, oh, man, I'm seeing things. And then my little boy, who I thought was asleep, went, oh, Mom, did you see that spaceship go down behind the mountain? And so I thought, oh, well, you know, we drove around trying to locate it, and then I went home. I thought, oh, better left.
You get to somebody who can help you out, and then you call me.
I will.
All right.
Thanks very much, Art. Have a good night.
Take care. She's been handled.
Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
Art.
Yes.
Hi, this is Susan from California.
Hi, Susan.
How are you?
Fine.
I have a altered state dimensional experience I wanted to talk to you about.
By all means.
Okay. I was living in a little town called Llano in New Mexico. It's halfway between Santa Fe and Taos. Mm-hmm. And it was in 1998, and I was meditating. I'd gotten my kids to sleep. I was meditating, and I started having the feeling of like things circling above my bed. Nothing, you know, just kind of like, you know, spirits circling my bed. And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. And the next thing you know, I thought I saw a light coming down our dirt road. And I got up to look out, you know, a big bay window. And the next thing you know, I'm standing on the road to my house. Uh-huh. And coming up to me is this very tall, attractive, looks human man, except his hair looks metallic. And he tells me that he wants me to come with him, but it's not kind of, we're not talking. We're having conversation in another place. Mm-hmm. And he tells me he wants me to come with him, and I tell him, well, you know, I don't want to. My daughter is young. What if you don't bring me back? And he said, no, come on. And he tried to convince me, and finally I said, no, I'm not going. And he said, okay, what if we bring your daughter? I said, okay, fine. So the next thing you know, my daughter is there. We're standing like on this mound. There was an old mound from building adobes, and it was grown over, and we're standing on top of the mound. And the next thing you know, I have the sensation of moving, but my hair is not blowing. There's no wind in my face. And I'm sitting, and I, you know, kind of feel down, and there's nothing underneath me. But I have the sensation of moving. And you know how the screensaver looks on your computer, like the stars whizzing by? It looks like that. The next thing you know, there's a starburst, 2 starbursts in the sky, and they have wavy kind of lines in them, like a sunburst, you know, like if 2 little suns, but not bright like a sun, just, you know, these little openings with wavy lines in them, and we pop in there and pop out the other side. And it was like being in a plane, and there was some cloud cover, and then it was like under the clouds there was a place. And there was, as we were coming in, there was lots of orange glow, like I knew they were fighting, like a war or something. I wasn't real sure, but I wasn't frightened at all.
Right.
And then he said, you know, that we were he had to prepare, you know, let other people know that we were there. So when we first got there, just to be kind of still and wait until he had squared everything away, and then, you know, everything would be okay. And so we got there, and I was raised on an Air Force base, so I'm pretty familiar with hangars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it was we came into like what was a hangar, a big, you know, open-spaced building. And we had flown by these 3 triangular glass buildings. It was very strange. I remember thinking it must have been like a United Nations or something, because there were flags, like a whole bunch of flagpoles and different flags in front. I thought, well, that's strange. So we get in the...
Well, you must have been in some kind of altered state, because whether your daughter was there or not, I mean, you've got to agree, it would be unusual to agree to simply go with somebody in the middle of the night.
Oh, no, he was very charismatic. I'll tell you what, if he came... I haven't seen him since, but if he came back tonight...
You'd go along tonight, huh?
I'm gone. Yeah, he was fabulous. So anyway, we got there. My daughter, we were kind of standing behind these shelves, and someone else came up, and my daughter thought that she knew him, and she jumped out and started talking to him. And the gentleman turned around, and it was like, oh, you have to go back now. And I said, what do you mean? You were going to tell me something? And he said, no, you have to go back. And I was very disappointed. And then I realized we were going back, and he wasn't with us, and I got a little frightened, and I heard a giggle, you know, and he threw me something that looked like a Nintendo controller and said, "Here, have some fun." And the next thing I know, I'm playing with the thing, and there's one straight road between Santa Fe and Taos, and you can tell it's, you know, tall trees. We're above the tree line, and I'm playing with a little controller. I thought it was fun, and we were skipping up and down. And the next thing, I'm in my bed, and my son is screaming from downstairs, running up the stairs into my bedroom on fire, screaming, "Mom, Mom, there's been something in the field for over an hour." He said it glows green like my fish bait. And he said, "I don't know what it is." He said, "I think it's an ET. I couldn't move in my bed."
Wow.
So we got up, and I got up and calmed him down. And, you know, it took way into the wee hours of the morning to calm him down. That morning, my daughter wanders down from upstairs, and she says to me, "Mom, how'd you like flying around with those angels last night?"
All right, listen, that's where we have to hold it. I really, really appreciate your call.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Yes, hi, Bill. This is Grace in Eugene, Oregon.
Yes.
I'd like to let you know that I've been abducted by an alien.
Abducted by an alien?
Yes. And how I know that was I've been having these really bad, horrendous headaches.
Yes. Well, a lot of people have headaches, right? That doesn't mean they've been created by aliens.
True, but I had an MRI done, and there's 2 growths in my brain.
2 growths in your brain?
Yes, they're like white, what they call bright spots. And there's no explanation why they should be there, but they just are.
You have 2 bright spots, and after they gave you an MRI, they said they probably put it up on the screen, and they said, "Look at these 2 bright spots in your brain.
Right.
They shouldn't be there." They should. Is that what they said? They shouldn't be there, but they are?
Yes.
And what did they say?
Not be there.
And what did they say they thought they were?
They don't know. And before I went in to have the MRI done, I was on a ship that had a great big bright light on it, you know, like the operation.
Whoa. You were taken aboard a spacecraft?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Wait a minute. It wasn't a dream.
No.
How do you know you were on board a spacecraft? Might seem like a silly question, but did you just suddenly be there, or what?
I'm not really sure. All I know is that there was some grays. I guess that's what you call them, the ones with the big black eyes. Mm-hmm. 2 notches in the face for the nose, a very small mouth, and...
what were you doing? Were you walking down the street? Were you asleep in bed when this happened?
I was just laying down in bed, yeah.
Laying down in bed. And so you're sure now that you didn't fall asleep and this was some sort of dream. This was real.
I'm positive because I was in a lot of pain.
Well, I understand. You may have a medical malady, but whether or not it's as a result of, implants put on board your head on board this ship, that's another question. Do you have any evidence that this is what happened to you?
The only thing I have as evidence is MRIs for where the bright spots are in the brain.
Bright spots. Normally somebody would do an MRI on somebody and find bright spots on the brain, would be tempted to take you to a neurosurgeon and...
That's who did it. It was a neurosurgeon that did this.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So, what do you think's going on? Only you know what's in your head. Are you being told to do things? Is there some communication going on? Are you having some effect from whatever it is that's in your brain?
Just a lot of pain.
A lot of pain?
Yes.
Well, that doesn't sound too good.
No, it's not. It's not fun.
All right. So the next time somebody out there wishes for an abduction, they should remember this lady's story. A lot of people have called up and said, "Oh, I wish I'd be abducted. I wish they'd let them take me." Well, how'd you like to end up with a couple of bright spots in your brain and constant headaches,
Well, all right. Back now with George Greene. George, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Listen, George, I am going to terminate this interview.
That's fine.
I've got to tell you, man to man, I don't buy any of it.
That's fine.
and I'm sorry.
I appreciate you having me on the air, and that's a good thing. And like I say, if your listeners want to just read the special message, make their own decision.
Good enough.
Thank you.
You take care, George. This is one of those times when I just I'm not comfortable with what I'm hearing. I'm not comfortable with the way it's unfolding. I'm not comfortable with the multiple directions that the interview was taking, none of which made any sense to me. I've always been a doubter of things that were supposedly or allegedly relayed in the manner in which George described, basically that it came into your head and you sort of typed it out on a word processor or a typewriter or whatever. Not comfortable with the references to the politicians and specifically with Senator Kennedy. Don't believe any of that. And I'm sorry, but I don't much believe any of the rest of it. I guess it's in a presentation and how you put your material together. But every time I would ask a specific question, I would get a non-specific answer. And so, wrapped up, I just sort of don't buy it. And as George said, if you want to read his website, perhaps there's material on there that will convince you, but not me. East of the Rockies, you're on the air.
Hello, Art.
Hello.
My name is Carl.
Hi, Carl.
I am the Antichrist.
Really?
And sir,
how can you be sure, Carl?
I was born with 6 fingers on each hand.
Well, that doesn't nail it right there. I mean, it is unusual, Carl, but that doesn't mean you're the Antichrist. There's lots of...
I understand that.
Okay. What else? No, wait, Carl. What else?
I am out of Bethel, my mother. Michael 5:2 in the Bible.
Yeah, but I mean, there's got to be a lot for you to know you're the Antichrist. That's quite that's a big claim.
There is so much more, Art.
Right. Well, fantastic claims require fantastic evidence.
I understand that. Let me make a statement to you and to the audience.
What would that be?
The ancient futures are time traveling back to ensure certain people's survival on this earth because we are their creators.
We are their creators. Well, I guess.
Yes, indeed, we are.
Uh-huh.
I sent George Norrie a set of 3 audio tapes. If you can contact his California office out there and ask for copies of those, if you will. There is some contact information in there. Please study that, and please do call me at the appropriate time. Use your own spirit to decide that for yourself.
But why would I want to talk to the Antichrist?
Because I am going to save at least 1/3 of the life on this planet.
That doesn't sound like an Antichrist-y sort of thing.
I understand that.
You see, Antichrists are, well...
The whole world has been deceived, Art. The whole world.
Yes.
And we come to 2 extinction cycles that are going to converge in 2012. And if we don't prepare for them, we will not survive it. At that point, a certain few will be taken. The rest will die.
You've got to understand that what you say is held somewhat suspect based on the fact that you've announced yourself as the Antichrist.
I certainly do.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I really do want to read this one to you. It just... when I first read this, it just flat hit me over the head. It's... title of the article is Operation Acoustic Kitty. At the height of the Cold War, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, bless their hearts, was willing to try just about anything to gain an advantage over the dreaded commies. The agency... I said commies, communists. The agency considered using exploding cigars or perhaps seashells to remove Cuban leader Fidel Castro. They employed psychics to attempt remote viewing of Russian military secrets. We all know about that one. And the CIA even put the Soviets on the business end of clairvoyant minds to attempt mind control. One of the CIA's most bizarre Cold War efforts was dubbed Operation Acoustic Kitty. In declassified documents from the CIA's Super Secret Science and Technology Directorate, it was revealed that some Cold War-era cats were surgically altered, get this, surgically altered to become sophisticated bugging devices. Windowsills, garbage containers, that sort of area, right? The cat was meant to just simply stroll right up to the sensitive conversation, completely unnoticed. The clandestine cat's electrical internals would then capture and, of course, relay the audio to awaiting agents. The project was founded and work began in 1961. Former CIA officer Victor Marchetti recounts the story of the acoustic kitty. Quote, "They slit the cat open, put batteries in him, wired him up. The tail was used as an antenna. They made a monstrosity. They tested him and tested him. They found that he would walk off the job when he got hungry. So they put together another wire to override that. Finally, they were ready. They took it out to a park bench and said, 'Listen to those two guys. Don't listen to anything else, not the birds, not the dogs, no other cats, just those two guys.' After several surgeries and intensive training, the cyborg cat was ready for its first field test. So the CIA drove the cat to a Soviet compound on Wisconsin Avenue in Washington, D.C., and let him out of a parked van across the street. The cat ambled into the road, was immediately struck by a taxi. 5 years of effort and $15 million in spending reduced to roadkill in an instant. Shortly after its demise, a CIA operative returned to the accident site and put the cat's remains into a container to prevent the Soviets from getting their paws on the sensitive and very expensive listening devices. Operation Acoustic Kitty was completely abandoned in 1967, declared an unadulterated failure, possibly due to their embarrassing nature. The documents describing Acoustic Kitty remain partially censored even today. But one document does praise the Acoustic Kitty team for their efforts, saying, quote, "The work done on this problem over the years reflects great credit on the personnel who guided it, particularly," then it's blacked out, "whose energy and imagination could be models for scientific pioneers." While the memo says that the use of trained cats is possible, it also says that the environmental and security factors in using this technique in a real foreign situation force us to conclude that for our intelligence purposes, it would not be practical. Now, they could have easily, avoided all of this by asking any cat person. Every cat person knows that cats do not come when called, do not do what they are told, operate their own little lives despite what wiring might be up their tail. So, a sad Acoustic Kitty story indeed, but I could have saved them all of that trouble.
Hey, Art, how's it going?
It's getting very interesting, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay, I guess you could call it a haunted house story. There was a farmhouse near where I grew up, big old house, and dated back to like the 1800s. But people had lived there on and off up to like the 1970s, and then it was vacant. And it was kind of set back on a dirt road, and we were teenagers and back in the early 80s, and we went there one night, and it was a big old house, and it wasn't really dilapidated or run down. It was just nobody had lived there for a while. Mm-hmm. And I'd been there a couple times, and I was showing my friends around, and there was 6 of us. It was 3 boys and 3 girls, and 2 of the boys, 2 friends of mine, were farm boys, and down in the basement of this place was an old beat-up, broken-down old antique tractor, and they were down there looking at it. And me and the 3 girls were upstairs, and I was showing them this place was pretty big, and it had like some old servants' quarters, which I thought was kind of neat. And I was showing them that. And so we were in the 2nd floor, and all of a sudden we heard this huge noise, big kaboom, smash, bang. Something was going down the stairs, obviously. And we ran out to look, and something or someone had thrown the toilet from the 2nd floor bathroom down the stairs.
Wow.
Now, we didn't hear it getting ripped out of the floor or anything. It was bolted into the floor. I remember that. There was no water, of course, hooked up. But while we were up there, something had torn that toilet out of the floor, carried it down the hall past us. We didn't hear anything, and threw it down the stairs.
And anything that could rip a toilet bolted in right out of the floor and then throw it down the stairs is nothing to be trifled with.
Right, and like I said, we didn't hear it getting torn out of the floor or anything like that. We just heard it go down the stairs, about 5 feet away from us. We were in like
boom, 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 yeah.
and the kids from the basement came running up, and the girls, of course, they wanted to light out of there as quick as could be, and I'll tell you what, I was the first one out the door myself.
I was going to say, when it comes to that kind of thing, there's not a lot of difference between guys and gals.
No, well, we can run faster, and I'll tell you what, I ran the fastest that night.
That's an awful... And so this thing was just sitting at the bottom of the steps, and that's when you took off. Well, for once, I agree. I would have done the exact same thing.
Hey, happy Halloween, Art.
Well, happy Halloween to you, sir. All right. Art, in the mid-'90s, we sold our rural home, moved into a small town of about 6,000 people. We rented a quaint little house located beside a small church and graveyard in the center of town. We moved in 1 week before Halloween. Our 4 children were eager to decorate for the occasion and decked out the house and yard, including headstones on the lawn and a hangman's noose, which was suspended from a large willow tree beside the front door, including a very realistic dead man. We bought tons of goodies in anticipation of the throngs of ghouls that would visit that night. Halloween Eve came and went without one ghoul racing our door, even though we observed dozens of them greedily shuffling from door to door across the street. By midnight, we were feeling a bit rejected, very rejected, turned in for the night, only to be awakened by a blood-curdling scream coming from downstairs. I rushed to the stairs to find our 11-year-old daughter trembling in fear and staring up at something. I glanced up to see a hangman's noose suspended from seemingly nothing. It hung there a few seconds and then fell to the stairs, totally freaking us all out. Needless to say, no one got any sleep that night. The next day, I found what everyone else obviously already knew. Apparently, we were living in the old church rectory in which a former pastor of the neighboring church had hung himself. That's from Eileen in Alberta, Canada.
You know what I think I'd do if I found somebody with a secret little pinhole camera in my house? If something like that had been planted and I found it, I'd act out something, like a murder or something. Really mess them up. Or I'd even concoct something wilder than that. I don't know what it would be, but I would act something out to totally freak out the people who had put it there.